First things first, this isn't a smear piece on VTubers or me calling out any specific VTubers for doing anything wrong. This is just an issue that is built into the idea of VTubers. This isn't something which is a new thing to those in the know, those that are part of the VTuber community, either as a VTuber themselves or as a viewer. But I just wanted to address it, since some stuff has happened recently which has put a spotlight on this issue for me, and if even one person can learn from this video about the issue and learn from it, then I guess this video will be worth it, even if for every second I'm writing this I feel that I am far from experienced or knowledgeable enough to do this, but I'm still going to do it because it's something important to talk about. The main issue with VTubers, to put it bluntly, is their dissociation from the general public. They don't show their face, they don't show their body, and, in some cases, they don't even show their voice to the public. This is something which results in people, be they well-intentioned in the beginning or out to cause harm, taking note of this fact and making use of it for their own purposes. These purposes can range from the mostly harmless, but still rather disturbing, all the way up to things which can actively destroy a person's life. The reason why the dissociation is such a major problem is owing to the fact that, without being able to see the person that you are harming, there is evidence suggesting that you would go far further than you would do if you had a face to put to the harassment you are heaping on them. Just look at the internet, you'll see pretty clearly that's a fact with trolls, who in their everyday life might, and I'd hazard a guess are mostly good people, can really turn around and be complete dirts. So when you have a figure, who is so easily able to become a target due to the nature of what they do, mixed with the anonymity that being a VTuber brings, it's easy to remove the human element, thing of them just as an fixture which exists in the screen, and anything that they do to them, be it through comments in their videos, in their chats, private messages and the sort, is going to only affect the character. But by no means am I saying that VTubers should give up their anonymity. In fact, they have every right to remain as invisible to the public as they desire. I am simply doing my best to explain why I feel like at least some of the individuals who fall into the rabbit hole of treating VTubers less like people and more like a commodity, one that they can just buy and sell at their leisure. Now, what's actually do these individuals do? Honestly, there is a lot of things that they do, and that some people, who I am certain right now are pissed at them, end up doing too, because it seems harmless. I am no saint. I've fallen into the trap of shipping two VTubers together, because I got invested in the whole idea of it. It was only when people started to call out these people for supposedly cheating on one another that I pulled myself back and had to have a serious look at what I was doing, because honestly, harassing one person over them playing a video game with one person, instead of someone that you have arbitrarily decided that they are in a relationship with or should be in a relationship with, is just stupid, and it also takes away any agency that they might have to make the choice on whom they play with and who they have a relationship with. Anyway, since I'm on the topic of shipping, let's get into that. Shipping is supposed to be a fun little thing done as a sort of what if. For instance, what if Goku and Sailor Moon were in the same show? Wouldn't they make a cute couple? That's fine. Neither of these two are real people, with real feelings, dealing with real-world problems. When you start to ship two real-life people, something I notice happens quite a lot in the VTuber community, regardless of if they promote it or not, that doesn't give you the right to go around acting like the manager for their relationship, or perhaps lack thereof. You don't get to tell them who they should talk to, you don't get to tell them that they can't be friends with someone just because their supposed partner has some kind of beef with them. You don't get to impress upon them your fantasies of their relationship, because you aren't either party and you don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes, and even if you did, pushing for a relationship to happen, all but trying to force it upon people is just wrong. Now I know what some people are going to say: it's just a joke, don't take it so seriously, or they encourage it so it's fine with such and such a person. I don't know any VTubers personally, and I don't claim to speak for any of them. This is all just coming from the perspective of someone in the community as a fan and as a viewer of several different VTubers. But I feel that the moment someone has to stand up and tell you to stop, you have already gone too far. When a VTuber has to tell you to stop shipping them, because it makes them uncomfortable or because they are actually in a relationship with someone, you have already at that point screwed up. And speaking of VTubers who are in a relationship, the backlash which can come from that reveal is both a display of the worst kind of shipping imaginable and a display of an utter lack of true connection with the VTuber in question, because it cracks the illusion of a character which only exists in the screen for your viewing pleasure. But that's all I wanted to say on the shipping stuff. Just don't do it, or if the VTuber themselves is cool with it, just be conscious that one day you might find a limit and you better be ready to back up and apologize. Anyway, it's not my job to white knight for VTubers, so let's move on to the next part of this VTuber issues video. VTubers, or at least several of them, play a character on stream. That extent by which that character differs from themselves depends on the individual, and that isn't the important part of the discussion. What is important is the fact they are at least in some capacity playing a character. Some people don't seem capable of distinguishing between where the character ends and the person begins. I'll admit at times I'm uncertain if what a VTuber says is them just playing up their character or if they actually mean it, and honestly, I don't think that's a problem. What is a problem is when people start acting like what they see on screen is the exact same individual that exists out there in the real world. Honestly, you'd think anyone born into this digital age, who has the luxury of watching VTubers, would already know that the people they see on the screen isn't going to be the real deal, insofar that they are going to expose themselves completely, warts and all, to the entire world. Yet still, people continue to act like just because a VTuber character acts in a manner, maybe it's harsh or overly crude manner, they must act like that in the real world. This happens, I believe, because whereas an actor in a film isn't often had their personality mixed with that of the character they are playing, because the whole setup is that they are telling a story, in the case of VTubers, they aren't telling a story, at least not most of the time. Instead they are entertainers much more similar to that of a show host or a sports player. You don't get to see the two distinct individuals, so you're left with only the perception you can build based upon what you have seen of them. A character is a character, and people need to accept that. No one on the internet wants to show off their bad side all the time. Sometimes something might slip, and sometimes they might be hamming it up for the audience. You'll just have to accept never knowing. It's inevitable as you grow as a content creator, you're bound to get some fans who are a bit pushier, a bit more invasive of your general person. But some people in the VTuber community, perhaps more than other communities, once again owing to the dissociation they have between fan and content creator, suffer from a celebrity worship syndrome, or CWS, which is an obsessive addictive disorder, where an individual, or in this case group of individuals, become overly involved or invested in a celebrity's personal and professional life. A pretty common type of this obsession, that I've observed in the VTuber community, is an intense personal kind, where people will actually claim that a certain VTuber is their one true love, or that they should date because they're perfect for one another. First off, if you have never spoken to them, face to face, as in you're actually face to their actual face, you are by no means capable of determining that you love them. What you are able to do is recognize attractive features in their personality, and because of the fact that you don't know what they look like, you're free to make up whatever headcanon appearance you like for them. Essentially you're creating an idealized individual, of whom you can push your affections onto, rather than actually going out and trying to find an individual who doesn't just exist in your imagination. If you've never had the chance to chat just casually with them, the best you can be is infatuated. If you want to hear about the idea of a VTuber dating a fan, there's a video about Silverveil talking about it. Go watch that. She puts it way better than I do, and is actually speaking from the perspective of a VTuber, rather than some random guys like me. But anyway, moving on, into the biggest and scariest issue that VTubers deal with. Doxing, the invasion of someone's privacy, gaining access to their personal information for the sake of spreading it to the world. Considering that VTubers, for the most part, don't have a face reveal, an easily accessible knowledge base, it's no wonder that people, who are either obsessed with the VTuber in question or for whatever reason has something against said VTuber, they would go out to try and reveal these things. Doxing can range from just having their face shown off, all the way up to having names, locations, personal security numbers and the like all being leaked across the internet. The why people do it isn't important, the issue is that people do and what can come from it as a result of people doxing them, which is what the rest of this video is going to be about. So if you don't want to stick around to hear the issues which come from doxing be explained to you, for what would probably be the 100th time, I congratulate you on making it this far into the video, for putting up with this rather unprofessionally put together mess of a discussion, and wish you a good day. For those of you who for whatever reason want to continue on this journey with me, let's get going. Doxing can quite easily destroy someone's life, even more so when anonymity is a part of your brand. Once you have been doxed, erase the evidence as much as you want. To a deep internet scrub, but in this age of instant messaging and the ability to have people drag up quotes from the depths of a decade ago just to throw it in someone's face, the internet never forgets, not really. A person who is doxed might feel like they have to leave the scene of VTubers for good, either due to their own mental well-being, because of the fact they don't want to risk something like this happen again, or because now they have been opened up to all sorts of other attacks that they previously were able to avoid due to the nature of what they do. Destroying a person's life isn't just removing them from a platform, or getting them fired or forcing them to go on a break for their mental health. Those are all a part of it, yes, but it's also the act of painting a target on someone's back, of giving the general public the sort of ammo they need to continue harming someone long after the initial incident. It's setting them up for potential months or even years of struggles that can't be seen or predicted from the moment the information leaked. It destroys lives because it doesn't just harm the person they are now, but the person they are in the future. Now, speaking of those other attacks that doxing opens them up to, stalking. Once the information has been leaked, where a person lives, who their family are and where they can be found, the sort of things that a person can do at that point is horrifying. It can be as simple as someone heading to their house to take photos of them without their permission, or it could go further, a lot further. At this point you're no longer satisfied with just harassing the person on the internet, at this point you're harassing them in the physical world too. Following someone home, watching them from afar and analyzing them like they were some sort of prey is both dehumanizing and monstrous. If you happen to see your favorite VTuber walking down the street, or you recognize their voice when they are ordering coffee, by all means say hello, provided that you aren't getting in the way of what they were doing, but don't start acting like you know them, or expecting them to want to talk to you, and definitely don't go around treating them like a piece of art hanging in a gallery. The best thing you can probably do is just privately acknowledge them, but don't go making a big deal of it, and certainly don't go drawing attention to it. Don't go taking photos of them, and don't try and be chummy with them, just because they are a VTuber. Know them as a person before you start to think you can interact with their VTuber selves. Another issue which comes with doxing is the ability to impersonate someone. You might think that with all the information out in the open it would be harder to impersonate someone than it would be to impersonate someone without a face. But with that kind of information on the loose, impersonating someone, both on the internet and in the real world, suddenly becomes a lot easier. Suddenly bank accounts are no longer secure, suddenly people's friends and family aren't safe, and suddenly everyone has an open access to pretend to be one of them. Money, fame, and influence can all be yours if you steal it from someone who already has it. The final danger I want to talk about that involves doxing is the swatting, the highly illegal, highly immoral, and dangerous action of incorrectly reporting to whichever relevant emergency service about a serious crime. Beyond the fact that this has the chance of causing serious damage to an individual's property, to causing them extreme mental and potential physical stress depending on their condition, it can also result in their death or permanent debilitating injuries. Swatting someone who doesn't have a face, who doesn't have a public image which can be used to defend themselves or for the authorities to check up on, makes it far easier to just point the finger. Again it comes back to the dissociation they have from the VTuber in question, the fact that they themselves don't see the incident, they don't see the individual's traumatized expressions or the corpse that now lays on the ground is what I feel empowers them to do these sorts of things, because if they went after someone with a face, with a very public image, one that is pretty much commonplace, they know that something is certain to come to light about it. But with VTubers, yes, they might say they got swatted, but unless they want to reveal information about themselves, they aren't going to start posting images of the damages or videos of how they were frightened for their life. Because you never see the consequences, people can in their own twisted minds, continue to act like it's all just some big joke, and that's sick and wrong and sick in so many ways, but I can't help but think that this is how some people think. But I think it's time I wrap up this whole mess of a video, and honestly anyone who made it to this point, I thank you, because honestly, I'm not certain that I'd have the strength to sit through what is essentially some random guy on the internet telling you about stuff you probably already know about for however long this video ends up being. I hope that I've spread a bit more awareness and not just added more fuel onto the fire like a complete idiot. After watching a video about VTubers being doxxed and swatted and everything else horrible, I just felt like talking about it, and yes, I know these things happen to people who aren't VTubers, I'm not blind to that, but as someone who is part of the VTuber community and who has seen some of these destructive behaviors firsthand and has admittedly taken part in it, to a lesser extent, I feel only slightly more qualified to talk about this mess than I am about other areas of YouTube and the other content creators. Usually, I'd tell you to leave a like and subscribe, but instead today I want you to go out and spread awareness of these issues and work to try and change not only yourself but the whole community for the better. I'm just one guy, who doesn't even use his actual voice in these videos, I can only do so much. But anyway, this is the end of the video. Have a nice day or night wherever you are. I'll be getting back to Chainsaw Man with my next video, so look out for that. And as a final thing, don't be afraid to speak out, if you notice things going south. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video.